And now it is time for the Patriot Church, hosted by Pastor John Vacchiano.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome, Patriot Church Radio. I am your host, Pastor John Vacchiano. Welcome, all you lovers of God, country, and family. It's exciting to be here. We're having some rain finally down here in not so sunny Florida, but we've been needing that terribly. So thanks for tuning in. Let me catch you up on some announcements, some things that are coming up, especially this week. So lots of things going on. This Friday, our closing ceremony for Cross Style Academy will be held in Sebastian at 50 South Wimbrow Drive. We have a kindergarten graduation, students' presentation. They're going to be doing song and some dance and Bible verses and all kinds of great presentations, and of course a graduation cake. So that's going to be a fun time. If you have been a helper or a contributor to the school, a supporter, please come by 6:30 this Friday, and we'll have a great time in Sebastian and see the kids and how hard they worked all year. And this has been a long year. I don't know what it's been, but all the teachers and everyone, we're all thinking, man, this has just been a long year. So that's this Friday. Also Friday night, our Hispanic Republican Club is having a disco party to celebrate President Trump's birthday. How awesome is it? I don't know if you guys knew this, but President Trump's birthday is on Flag Day. I mean, you can't get much more patriotic than that, right? Other than who was it, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson passing away on the 4th of July. I mean, that's pretty patriotic as well. And so if more information, go on to our the Republican website, ircgop.com. You can see flyer information and all that information there as well about Friday night. And then Saturday, there's a great Meet the Candidates gathering at the address is 200 Sebastian Boulevard. But if you know where, let's see, O'Reilly Auto Parts and what's the paint store there? Sherman Williams. Yeah, I say Sherman all the time. Drives my wife crazy. It's Sherwin Williams paint store. You just go in that driveway and keep driving east, and you will see the tent set up, the bounce houses. It's a free event. Congressman Corey Mills is going to be there. He's a U.S. Congressman. Florida State Senator Debbie Mayfield, Florida State Senator Aaron Grawl will be there as well. Bounce houses and snow cones, all kinds of food, hamburgers, hot dogs, pulled pork, patriotic gear, what else? Raffles, patriotic songs, and many candidates will be there. Rob's going to be one of those candidates that'll be there. Another school board candidate, Kevin McDonald, will be there. A couple of our county commission candidates will be there as well. Others running for Congress, tax collectors, whole nine yards, state committee men, state committee women, candidates will be there. So that's this Saturday from 11 to 3. And just come on in and go on, just show up. It's going to be an open event, and it's going to be a great time. And it's going to be just a fun day to meet the candidates as well. Also, what's coming up on the 22nd, as I think I mentioned this to you guys last time, the 22nd, I am involved in a panel discussion that's taking place, sponsored by a group called Operation Joshua. Their tagline is Be Strong and Courageous. Panel series, June 22nd, Saturday evening, 7 o'clock. I will be one of the 3 speakers on a panel discussion at Wings of Grace Ministries, and that's at 400 Grove Lane in Melbourne. And you can go on the website, visit operation-joshua.com, operation-joshua.com. To get details or register for the event. I'm going to be one of the panel speakers. Ruth Cuffhold from Brevard Citizens Defending Freedom will be there, and also another pastor, Jim Begley, Liberty pastor and founder of Wholeness to Freedom, will be there as well. Moderator Hillary Earl, founder of Operation Joshua. She will moderate the event, and it's going to be a topic on. It's not really a divisive kind of topic. It's nobody really knows about it, but it's called "Should Christians Be Engaged in Political Issues?" So I think I have a couple of things to say about that. I don't know, Patriot Church. We just might. So that's going to be exciting. What does the Bible say? Of course. And if you've tuned in to any of our Patriot Church events, messages, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, man, I just hope you've been learning. I hope you've been getting information, and we're just digging deep about our founding and so forth of our country. And then, of course, that following Sunday, the 23rd, is the fourth Sunday. Patriot Church, 8:30 to 9:45 is our fire cake breakfast, and then 10 o'clock service. Again, singing some great old patriotic hymns and getting into a great message on the founding of our country, looking at the Declaration, the Constitution in regard to the Word of God. So it's just a fun thing. So hope you guys can make it. And again, any other questions, send me an email to patriotchurch@gmail.com. So for our quick lesson this morning, I got to share a little bit in chapel this morning about Noah Webster and his dictionary. And I don't know if many folks, we kind of know some of the superficial stuff about Noah, but I don't know, and folks realize, because I talk a lot about the founding fathers being believers, and so forth. But when Noah Webster began, he was a believer later in life. And he was born in 1758. He, of course, graduated from Yale during the Revolutionary War. He tried teaching, but he was a failure, they say, at teaching, which I find that so crazy to think that he would have failed at that. He opened a school that closed. He tried to become a lawyer, and he struggled to make it a living. He fell in love twice, and he was rejected. So I mean, and all those things happening to him early on in life. He decided he wanted to be George Washington's official biographer, but somebody else got the job for that. And so to keep from starving, Webster assembled the spelling textbook called the Blueback Speller. And if you've never seen that, it's an amazing book. The Blueback Speller. I think we should bring it back into the school systems again, brother, but that's another topic for another day, right? And he invented that concept called the book tour, which, of course, we got the Vero Beach bookstore downtown here, and we've had many come on a book tour here. A lot of famous people have come. So he actually went around the 13 colonies and just lobbied for copyright protection on his resource. And, of course, the Blueback Speller taught generations, I mean really generations of children to read, to spell, and to pronounce words correctly. And that helped him kind of sustain himself a little bit. But the Blueback Speller, also known as Webster Speller, became the most purchased book in America, number 2, for a whole century, 100 years. And the number 1 book, of course, was the Bible. Okay, that was the number 1 book. But he finally did get married and found his true love, October 1789, married Rebecca Greenleaf. Of course, she was absolutely perfect for him, the historians write. And, of course, he relocated to New Haven, Connecticut, and he announced a project which would help him, and it was June 1800. And what he decided to do was make his dictionary. And I have a copy of the original 1828 Webster's Dictionary, and it's just a powerful book. It's about yay thick and stays open on my desk all the time, and I'm always looking through it for definitions and so forth. But at that point, before that, Webster began, he was just, became depressed. A lot of his things didn't happen the way he wanted to, of course. Tried to start a newspaper in New York. That failed. Lost interest. And then decided about this dictionary. And you think about the dictionary, the idea of having one unified language with all the different backgrounds and all the different folks, the French, the English, and all the different histories and all the different people that came to America. And what an undertaking to come up with this wording, because I don't know if you've ever read any old English spelling, but the S's look like F's and the F's look like S's, and it's just interesting. But what happened to Webster, again, at this point, he wasn't a believer. He had lots of mental strain, some depression, financial worries, constant criticism. I mean, he was just really down in the dumps until he came to faith in Jesus Christ. there was a pastor, a local pastor there in New Haven. His name was Reverend Moses Stewart, and he was a powerful preacher. It was during the Second Great Awakening, and Webster's teenage daughters happened to be converted during this preacher's time of his preaching. And of course, Webster at that time was disturbed about that and went to talk to the pastor about it. He struggled with the whole gospel message. But then, of course, one morning, it was April 1808, several weeks after talking with the pastor. And the quote is this. He wrote, "I instantly fell to my knees and confessed my sins to God, implored his pardon, and made my vows to him." And at that point, there was this great transformation for Noah Webster. And, of course, the 1828, starting it in 1800, I read some history where he had to learn something like 20-some languages or something to write this great undertaking. Boy, it's just an amazing story. He refers to that time in his life as those who called him mad, like mad in his mind, like crazy for coming to faith. And he's reminded of the story in the book of Acts where Paul is accused by King Agrippa that he's gone insane. And he, of course, tells King Agrippa, "I haven't gone insane, but I speak the words of truth and reason." And wouldn't that be something to get the words of truth and reason back in the forefront of our day today? So, Rob, man, thanks for coming on this morning. We're excited to have you here at Patriot Church Radio. You are, of course, running for school board, Indian County School Board, District 3. And glad you got into the race. So give our folks some background. What are you doing? Where are you from? Your family, all that good stuff, so that folks can get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah. So Rob MacCallum, I've been here for about 7-8 years now, but my great-grandparents moved here in the 60s. And my great-grandfather, I actually just found this out a couple weeks ago, he was one of the first, he was an audiovisual teacher, and he was a math tutor for the charter St. Edward's School.
Oh, wow.
So he actually apparently moved down here specifically to help start that school.
Oh, that's neat.
And that was pretty cool to learn. So that was great. I've been coming down here since I was about 6 weeks old. Love Vero Beach. I have 2 cousins that graduated through the system. They, we fell in love with the area when I brought my wife down here to meet the family. Mm-hmm. She informed me when we got back up to Massachusetts, it was snowing and, our street was almost flooded. And she looks at me and she goes, "I'm moving to Florida. You want to come with me?" I was like,
"That's
well,
funny.
Yeah, my mom's down there, everything's down there. So we decided to make the move, and it was great. We now have our 2 children, Liam and Fiona, who are, Liam just finished his first year of kindergarten. Right. Fiona will be there next year. And so we kind of were looking at those options.
Both in public school?
Both in public schools.
Right.
We're both products of public school.
Okay.
Believe in public school systems and why they exist and why they should exist, and are very big advocates for it. So we were looking at probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. I attended a Debbie Mayfield event, and she inspired us to kind of get involved at a higher level. So we asked her afterwards, how do we do that? What does it look like? Where do we start? And she said, look at your local school board. Mm-hmm. She said that's a good place to start looking at, because those are our future. The children are the future of everything. So
great advice.
We need to kind of look at that and see how we can help that move along. So I started looking at the school board, and I started seeing some of the inefficiencies that, as a business owner, I could really help fix. And that's what really got me into wanting to run for it. So it was really about a 2 to 3 year build up of thinking about it, kind of really paying attention, and then putting my name in the hat about a year ago. So,
what kind of business?
So we own Exit Realty here in town. So it's a franchise model that we, I have my own brand of insurance up in Massachusetts. We still own and operate that today, and we decided we wanted to come down here and do real estate because we had kind of dabbled in it up in Massachusetts, and now we've got 25 agents, and we're just rocking and rolling down here.
That's
so
great.
Yeah, so we enjoy it. We enjoy being part of the community. Our office is right downtown Vero, right on 14th, so we're right in the thick of it now, and we couldn't be more proud to be a part of this community and really help it grow.
Great. Okay, so you're a product of the public school system. Excuse me, your kids are in the public school system. You've I'm assuming you've been to school board meetings, you've seen what's gone on over the
Yep.
course of how many years now that you've been
Yeah, it's been
a few
about
years?
2.5 years that I've been going to pretty much every school board meeting and really paying attention.
Was there a point in time where you just, maybe the light came on or some just said, look, Rob, you gotta get engaged here. You got to get involved. You got to take the next step. What was that about?
Well, I think the point for me was that I will be the only candidate that has kids in the actual system.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives me a unique point of view of day to day what's going on with our kids, what we're seeing, what they have to go through, what as a parent we have to go through. I mean, there's so many forms and things that we have to read just to enroll our kids. There's 3 different apps. I mean, so when you look at all of that, to not have anyone that's actively engaged in that process, making decisions and putting forth policies that are going to help our kids and our parents know what they need to be doing, that was one of my big kind of, all right, well, this is a good time
Mm-hmm.
to put that out there. And also then you look at, the budgets and you look at what the school actually is in our county, which is our biggest business. And I have the business background to kind of look through those things and see it from a 30,000-foot view.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of what prompted me to then really start actively
Right.
thinking about making a run for school board, because you're really running a big business
Mm-hmm.
in our town and in our
Okay.
community. So
Wow.
that's what really kind of threw it out there.
Okay. Yeah. So that is a unique perspective, and I think it's a great one to have because, again, like you said, the budget. Do you have an idea on the budget, the school board budget? What exactly we're talking about here?
Yeah, I think the budget's $330 million.
$330 million bucks.
I think
That sounds
that's where it is.
so huge.
Yeah, and I mean, and the funny thing is, it's just a number.
Right.
Really, when you have to break down that number to all the different facets of what you have to pay for, whether it's
Right.
school taxes, employees, the whole gamut, athletic facilities. I mean, it
Yeah.
really gets pretty tight real quick.
There's a lot of
So it
things.
sounds like a big number, but
Yeah.
you also have to have people that are used to dealing with numbers
Right.
and budgets and really understanding that, yes, that's a big number, but we need to make sure that all those little numbers that make
Mhm.
that big number are being used appropriately
Yeah.
and going to the right places.
So, what other aspects from the business side do you see being pulled over to, say, the school board side?
So for me, I do a lot of leadership trainings and I
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of things of just how to make a system run efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And that means getting your people engaged with you. So one thing that I've talked about a lot about is, I feel our teachers are micromanaged to the point of exhaustion, where they feel like they can't do anything without some sort of punishment or kickback of issues that they might face. So I think we need to really look at that
Mhm.
and look how we can stop micromanaging our teachers
Mm-hmm.
to the point of exhaustion with a lot of the administrative stuff. We also have to trust in their word. I mean, I've got one admin who had reached out to me not too long ago who had a problem with getting handcuffed basically because the teacher brought this referral to her and she couldn't do anything about it because, the student that was the problem had an issue.
Right.
And so basically she ended up getting in trouble. And it's just the communication breakdown. Are we really trusting our kids over our teachers? If that teacher saw that issue happen, why do we have to bring the kid in to then say, what's your side of the story?
Mm-hmm.
And really overtake? I mean, it was a black and white issue. So it was really something that
Right.
kind of put that out there. So for me, it's like, what's the message we're giving our teachers? What's the message we're giving our students? And what is the message we're giving our parents as to how this system is supposed to run?
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at all that, you're really handcuffing the school system to not have great communication back and forth, but it's really log jamming those kind of discipline issues so that if a kid gets in trouble on a Monday, it might be 2 weeks before that discipline is, warranted or told, hey, this is what's going to go on.
Wow.
And so by that time, the kid's still been in classroom, still hasn't had any time out of the classroom, and the
Right.
teacher's saying what's going on and no one's communicating. So
Yeah.
so those are business inefficiencies to me that I would like to look as a whole system to try to make that better. And it really comes down to communication, and just simple processes that we can help put in place.
So, what grade are your kids in right now? You have one in
Liam's
school?
in kindergarten. He
Okay,
just finished kindergarten, and Fiona will be in kindergarten
So I was
next
thinking
year.
about the whole COVID thing. Were you guys here during COVID? Yeah, you already
We were
moved
not.
down, so you came after?
No, we
or-
were here during COVID. They were
Yeah.
not in school
They
during
weren't in
COVID.
school, yeah. So,
They were daycare.
any thoughts about the whole COVID thing? How that really, for many parents, really kind of pulled back the curtain on what was actually going on. Some of the things that maybe folks thought that shouldn't be going on.
Yeah.
If I think about when I grew up in public school, and how the teachers were and how the administration was and the focus of education versus today.
Yeah.
Today it's becoming much more politicized. It's becoming much more, I don't know, there's a lot of things we could talk about, but
Yeah.
man, so go ahead and expound on some of that.
Yeah, so I think parents are finally paying attention. And I don't think, and we will talk to like my mom and when we were going through school, it was kind of like you just dropped your kid off at school, expected everything to go well. And it did when we
Yeah.
were there. And I'm not sure where it shifted, but at some point, we've let things kind of slide, whether people just kind of took their eye off the ball or not. I don't want to blame anyone,
Sure.
in the county that I don't know 100%, but I think it was more of just, we kind of took the eye off the ball on certain things, and now people are seeing that stuff happening in the school system, and they're pointing it out, and we should. The greatest thing that's come out of some of these challenges, like the books, for instance, is that we now have a process.
Right.
There wasn't really a process and if there was, it wasn't being followed.
Right.
So now there's a stringent process of, here's how we get the books into the school, and if there's something that we don't like, here's how we can potentially
Right.
challenge the book to see if it needs to be removed. And I think that was one of the most important things that came out of that. But everything's been looked at, and I think that one of the big issues that we're having is that there's a lot of miscommunication, a lot of spinning of stories as to what's actually going on.
Sure.
And that's where now we've got kind of the emotional turmoil that some people are facing. And it's a lot because they feel like they've been attacked or whatnot. No one's attacking. We're just trying to clean it up. We're
Yeah.
trying to do what's in the best interest of kids to make sure our system can move forward and our kids can get the best educational opportunity without the distractions.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I think that if people can kind of pull back and just see, hey, we've got concerned parents right now looking at things
Right.
and trying to hold our system accountable. And
Yeah.
that's what it should be done. So I think that that's something that we really need to look at is the accountability. And, no one wants to be held accountable, but at the same point, you have to be. There has to be those accountability measures that are
Yeah.
in place.
Accountability certainly needs to be a two-way street.
Right.
And those who have been in business, those who have had leadership and so forth, realize the importance of accountability.
Right.
So, I want to wear that on my sleeve, so to say, and say, look, I want to be accountable to you. And because I want you to be accountable, say I'm going to be accountable to you back and forth.
Right.
And you got to be able to have that discussion. It just can't always get politicized. It can't always get to be, my feelings are hurt.
Right.
You're picking on me, kind of stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
no, what's the main goal? We can, be on two different sides of an issue, but our goal could be the same. And how do we get there? We might be
Correct.
wanting to take two different roads.
Right.
But and I see that a lot, especially with the school board, because we have a lot of different folks from different backgrounds and so forth, and some of the members in the past. I mean, where it's really gotten politicized in the past, and then folks come in, different groups come in, and so forth and so on, and it just gets so out of control sometimes.
Right. Well, and that's where you need to have the strong leadership
Yeah.
to be able to get that back into control. Because what I think has happened in the recent past, especially, is our leaders and our school board members, some of them have taken offense to certain things and then they shut down.
Right.
And they will refuse to kind of work with that group, or they'll at least, everyone deserves to come up to the podium and say what they want to say and what they're concerned about. And us as leaders, it's our job to decipher that information and make a either a policy or judgment on what we feel is appropriate for the entire system as a whole. And I think some of our leaders have taken that to the point of, well, this group or that person or this person is saying this, so I'm just not going to vote that way, or I don't agree with anything they say. Instead of, how do we work together with all sides? I mean, as an elected official, you're representing an entire county. So how do we work together with everyone in that county to make sure they're at the very least heard, whether you agree with them or not? They should be heard. Their voice should be spoken, and it should be without judgment or persecution, really.
Right.
And we should be looking at working with everyone that wants to have a voice and wants to get involved. We've been demanding parental involvement and really begging for it for years. And now that parents are stepping up and we just don't like what they're trying to be involved with, we're chastising them for actually standing up and being involved. So we've kind of have to work on that.
Sure.
As you want the involvement or you don't, but we need to have the parental involvement.
Yeah.
We need to have the community's involvement. When they see something that's going wrong, they should come up and make a mention of what they want. And then we should try to work with them to figure out what's the best solution moving forward, or why we shouldn't move forward with that particular issue.
Great. Some great points. So you spent a lot of time being in the school system with your kids and involved in sports, I'm thinking, and stuff like that as well, or he's getting ready to maybe play T-ball or something like that.
Liam's in everything.
He likes everything, yeah.
Now it's his new favorite sport is basketball.
Okay.
And he's never played basketball,
Right.
but I signed him up for a summer camp.
Summer camp to do it.
And now it's his favorite sport. And
It's going to be great.
I haven't even dribbled yet.
That's awesome. What are some of the things that you're hearing from maybe other parents, concerns they may have about the school system, about what's going on the school board, or anything you can share with that?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that has come up recently a lot is bullying. And I think we have a massive issue with some bullying, both in school and online. And we need to start really looking at that. I have several stories now of kids that have taken these issues to administrators, and the administrators haven't done anything about it. And then it becomes YouTube brawls, and it becomes an issue.
Wow.
And one of the key takeaways that I've kind of gotten from all these stories is, at never one point from when the student had brought it to the attention of the administrators, to even when it became a bigger issue, was the parent ever notified that this was happening. So, the parental involvement has to be number one. And I get the argument of some parents can't be involved because of XYZ. They have 3 jobs, they've got 7 kids, whatever it is. We still need to look for the parental involvement at a higher level, because even if, let's say that's 10% of the school population, well, if you get the other 90% of the parents involved, you're still going to have a better system. So we need to be pushing parental involvement, and then we need to figure out that 10% that can't be involved for whatever reason. We can find out, we can kind of find out how we can help them, at the same level. But if you have 90% of involvement, or 80% or 70%, whatever that number is, you have a higher level of involvement, you're going to have a better system that's going to run smoother.
Great. That's great. So I know, like on a state level, for instance, the Step Up for Students scholarships, we have, of course, education freedom here in the great state of Florida, which is wonderful. There's the issue of bullying came up, where they actually were able to set up a scholarship through Step Up for Students, so that kids that were bullied at school could go to another school and help with, if they went to a private school or a charter school or wherever, they could help pay for that as well at a private school.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea in theory, but at the end of the day, that's not addressing the issue, because you're removing that kid that's been bullied and putting them into a different situation, but you're not taking care of the bully.
Yeah.
And you're not taking care of that problem. So what's to say that bully now is not just going to pick another target? What's also not to say, is it, if we're not involving both parties in that fight, so both parents, both kids, and an administrator, and putting them all in a room and discussing the situation and finding a solution, well, now you're just passing a problem off. And you're not solving, that kid still was bullied, and he has no recourse against his bully. So even though he's in a different, or she's in a different school system, it doesn't solve any of the problem. I mean, if we really look back at, the forgiveness and whatnot, I mean, that has to be solved. That door has to be closed as far as what that issue was, and for them to even move forward mentally or whatnot, depending on the severity of the bullying. So I think it's great in theory, but that's not addressing the problem of actually the bullying, the problem that happened, what that kid might be going through as the bully, what that kid is now going through as the bullied, And I think it's just, that's kind of putting a Band-Aid on the situation. But I
Right.
think it's a great in theory because it puts that Band-Aid and kind of removes from that situation. But we need to look at how to solve the problem of what's actually going
Yeah.
on. Because even though they're there too, if the bullying was happening online, that's still going to follow them.
Sure.
They can still reach them. So, as I said, it's great in theory, but I think we need to look at the root causes of some issues and fix that.
So what are some of the things that we can do? Does it start from the school board speaking about it, getting together? Is it something we need to go to state legislation about? Is there legislation about it right now? Are we not just putting into practice? Kind of like with the books. I mean, there's obvious, clear violations that the school board and schools have been doing with leaving these books in school. So they were not banned, they were not burned, they were just removed from the public school library, where they just didn't need to belong. It just seems so common sense. So what are some of those common sense solutions we could have for the bullying process?
So I think one of the biggest things that we need to do is look at our code of conduct and stick to it. So it can create easy processes. Here's a system that we live in. Here's a system that we're allowed to be in. We have to do it in society. Why aren't we putting it in our school systems and following it? So here it is, right here on paper. You're signing off on it. Your parents are signing off on it. This is what life is like in the school system. If you abide by these rules, then you're going to do fine. If you don't, here's the punishments. Here's the recourses and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, you have to look at the kids that want to be in our schools and want to learn and want to get the best, out of our schools and want to move forward with their educational opportunities or even going to VOTEC or whatnot or the trades. We need to look at those, and those are the students that we need to make sure are there in a safe learning environment, can maximize their experience with their teacher and really engage with them to move forward. And anything else that's a distraction needs to be removed from that classroom. So, whether that's a student that just can't figure that out or whatnot, here are the guidelines. And if you're outside those guidelines, you're not allowed to participate in the school. And the teacher should have that ultimate authority of making that determination. Because also, if a kid's a problem and you sending them back 15 minutes later, how's that teacher supposed to teach the other 30 kids that are in that class with the kid that they just kicked out back in the classroom? I mean, those stories you hear over and over again as well. So you've got to fix, as I said, some root cause issues that we have to look at, and as a board, set those policies and help with that code of conduct, which I know they do have that code of conduct meeting where everyone of the community is invited to participate in, to kind of look at those policies and, firm them up. But now we have to follow them, and now we have to follow through with the punishments, and we have to follow through with, the parental involvement and all that.
For me, I mean, I've been in public school, graduated from public universities, private universities, and education is so much more than just reading or arithmetic and in a language or something. There's so many more aspects to it. I think that's why the founders really talked about religion, morality, and knowledge being the foundations of American education back in the day. We got things are being said in the past from, say, Noah Webster again. We kind of started off today with him, but he said, thus a wrong education often plunge Americans into distress. And he was considered one of the founders and fathers of American education. And when some people hear that religion as a foundation in education, they immediately yell things like separation of church and state, or we're trying to indoctrinate the children into a particular denomination, which is so far from the truth. There is a morality that has been lost in our country, and you cannot have morality without some type of foundational truth of foundational truth, which we find in religion, in God's word. It was even, you go back to George Washington, who talks about the indispensable supports of our free society are religion and morality, and to kick those away is just looking to have destruction within our society. So there's been talk on the school board about classical education, which would help maybe bring in some of that morality back to the school system. We've seen the demise. Something as simple as taking prayer to school from 1961, or removing the Ten Commandments to give students an idea of, wait, we should not steal, we should not lie,
Right.
we should not, bear false witness against other students, and all these things that we're looking at as problems. For many generations weren't really there, were very minuscule, and now here we find ourselves with such a mess. It seems like such just such a huge mountain to climb, but we got to keep on keeping on, because we got kids, we got grandkids.
Yeah, and I mean, setting that moral standard for our students, I think, is huge. I mean, a lot of it has to start at home.
Sure.
And we can't be overstepping our bounds with what the culture is at their house and what they believe in and whatnot. But having a standard of, what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing, and how they should be acting within a school system, and basing it off of the base of morality and, how you treat other people and just
golden rule.
The golden rule, exactly. And that's what we grew up with.
Yeah.
And I think that is definitely lost. And it's not just lost in our school system, that's lost in our society. I mean, if you look at the news outlets now of these gangs of kids that are just going in, robbing stores, and then not getting prosecuted because it's under a certain amount. I mean, when is that? I remember when I stole a little piece of candy. It was
rocks out of the thing in the
I think it was just like
supermarket?
a peppermint or something.
Right.
And I got absolutely chastised by my father for that.
Yeah.
We got in the car. He made me bring it back.
Yep.
He made me, fess up to what I had just done. Even though it was just a little piece of candy, but that stuck with me. I never did it again. We don't have that today. Now it's like, okay, go ahead, break the window, and we're not going to do anything. And we're just you can take all this merchandise and not be proud.
Yeah.
Like, that's the example we are setting as a society. When are we going to get back to common sense?
Yeah.
That's not okay, and we need to change our ways. We can start that in the school system, and those are the lessons. And as I said, it's putting disciplinary actions into place. But I would also say, conversely, reward students that are being example students.
Yeah.
Give them some extra liberties, give them some extra freedoms, and maybe that will push up the ones that are wanting to act bad or not sure which way they want to go, and it'll push them into, acting appropriately and moving forward. So, those are things that I would love to look at and work with, Dr. Moore and his team on, just kind of how can we do that? How can we put that out there, and how can we change that mindset and message to, instead of being scared of what's going to happen if you do discipline a kid, and stick to the student code of conduct, what's going to happen, and actually put forth what we're saying we're going to do.
That's great.
You got to keep them accountable.
Yeah.
It's accountability.
You mentioned a little bit before about the philosophy in the schoolroom, and there was a great quote that we've used before. It says, the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation will be the philosophy of government in the next. And my goodness, if we haven't seen that loud and clear.
Absolutely.
When you look back at our founding fathers and those men coming out of Yale and Harvard and Princeton, which began as real religious training centers, Christian training centers, where the key for their education was that they would train them up in a way that they would be good citizens. It wasn't just, hey, get a degree and go make $1 million. No, there's more to it than just that. And of course, things have changed. And we've looked at all the mottos before of the Ivy League schools originally, and it's completely reversed from the beginning days till today. So what are some things that we can do on this local level to really get back to maybe some of those foundations, if you think we should? Yeah,
I mean, I think we need to definitely bring back, and I think that high schools do it, but the volunteer hours, and I think that has become a checkbox,
right?
Where the kids can kind of go volunteer for anything and get a checkbox instead of something meaningful that's actually gonna, show them something. But my big thing is I think we've changed and transitioned into a me first society. Right. And so what can you do for me, not what can I do for you? And I'm involved in organizations such as Rotary and whatnot, and it's completely different. B&I is another one. It's a business one that I'm involved in. But the philosophy is givers gain, and Rotary is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships, and will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Right.
It's what can I do for society, and what can I put out there in that universe and help? How can I help my fellow, man, woman, and community grow? And then I'll get back at the end when I've done that. And it's like kind of like that mentality, and that mentality is lost. It's it's like when I got a C, or if I got even if I got an A on my report card, but it said effort is average, I would have consequences for that. I mean, I got the grade, but I didn't put the effort in, and whatever. That's two schools of thought on that. But, we don't have that mentality. Now it's you're going to the teacher and you're saying, what can you do better to help my kid, instead of what can my kid do better to get a better grade? Right. It's it's just that
heard
flip.
That before.
It's that flip. Yeah. And so it's just kind of like that's where our mentality is as a society, and it needs to change. Yeah. So what can we do for that? I mean, we've got to get parents involved in PTAs. We've got to get, parents back in the school system, because the kids have gotten really good at saying, well, my teacher said that, but that's not what actually happened. Right. And so now the parent is siding with the kid because, for whatever reason. So we need to get them back involved, because if you have those three-way conversations, teacher, student, and parent, now you're going to really understand what's what. And, that's not been happening. So it does happen, for our school, for instance, it happens if your kid's a little bit behind, then the parent's involved and they bring you in for, I think, one or two meetings while that's happening, just to show the progress. But I don't think that's happening countywide. And that's definitely not happening once you're out of those, those programs, and your kid's now back on the right track or whatnot. So I think as I said, the parental involvement is going to be key in a lot of different things, and we have to search. And obviously, we're not going to get 100%. You're not going to get 100% on anything. But if we can just raise that percentage by 10%, the system's going to be better. A lot of these issues change.
Yeah, I've noticed we've had our school this is our 15th year, going on 16. I've been in the public school. I've taught in public school and private schools, now administration, principal, those kind of things. And it's definitely a huge difference when you see, obviously, the parental involvement with the student. We use an agenda idea where we send our kids are supposed to have their agenda signed at the end of the day, put their homework and information in there. We can use that to converse with parents as well. They're supposed to have it signed. Little Johnny's not supposed to, be able to do his fun stuff until he gets his agenda signed. He shows mom or dad, hey, I've done my homework, and that kind of thing. And they stick to those basic, business-like structure things, right? It really turns out well. It's the parents who either don't think they have to get involved, and unfortunately some are really busy. Like you said, they're just struggling just to make ends meet. And we want to help however we can as well. And then you get to a bigger setup where you're at the public school, where there are 25, 30 in a classroom. My goodness, it's a big task at hand. But I think these are our kids. These are this generation that we're training up to the next generation. Those ones like we talked about that are going to be, the leaders. That philosophy, what we're teaching them now, they're going to take forward with them in adulthood. And if it's not good, strong, traditional, moral education, morally valued education, if it's just, hey, we're just trying to get you by, we're just trying to get you past this test maybe, or I heard a startling statistic. Someone came on the radio not too long ago and said that in his class that there were some students who graduated from our school system that couldn't read. So we've seen the statistics, but how great, how true are those? Are they just numbers? Anything else you can think of that you want to address from
on that? I mean, we have a 60% literacy rate, similar math scores, but we have a 95% graduation rate.
Okay, let me write that down because
Yeah,
that
you
sounds
can do that math.
60%
literacy rate. Similar math, I think it's around 65%,
Okay.
and a
Math.
95% graduation rate. So what that tells me is our standards are way too low for what our students should be achieving. And so that's what I would like to look at is, how can we raise those standards? Because at the end, we don't want to just be passing kids through.
Right.
We want to be sending kids off to their next adventure, whether it's, as I said, it doesn't have to be college if that's not in your thing.
Sure.
Trade school, technical.
You need to bring that back.
But with trade schools, one thing I've always noticed with the trades is that most of them are not great business people. And they struggle because they make great money, but then they don't know how to budget. They don't know how to put it on a spreadsheet. They don't know how to read balance sheets, whatnot. So I'd love to see our trades put a little bit of a business 101
Sounds
type
really
thing.
Smart. Common sense kind of stuff.
Common sense. And so I think that would help that. But what are we graduating? How are we helping those students get to those next levels? And are we just graduating them just to graduate them to get whatever funding that we're getting or whatnot, hit those metrics? And that's where we really have to look at, what's more important, hitting those metrics for whatever reason we need to hit those metrics, or actually graduating students that are ready for those next steps.
That sounds pretty important.
And so that's where we need to look at that. And I'm for taking all that, looking at those numbers, and really doing the work as to what we need to do to make those changes to make sure that, we're not at 60% and 95% graduation rate, because those numbers don't make sense.
Yeah.
If you can barely read your test, how are you going to pass it?
So is that saying 35% of the kids that graduate aren't able to read?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. And I'll never forget my first college class at Nichols College. We had a kid from Florida, and we were in this class, and he couldn't read. That was a direct, that was the first, and that was my first eye opening. It was like, okay, I grew up differently than some people. I get that, but how are you in college and you cannot read a simple sentence? And it was flat out, he didn't even try. It wasn't it was, he was there, I think, on financial scholarship for football, and couldn't read. It was very eye opening for me at that point. So
yeah, it's scary. It of course does the student a great disservice because they're not preparing them for life.
Correct.
We're just trying to, get our school to a certain grade level or a certain award level, and man, again, that sounds like moral too, morality as well. Anything else you want to touch on before I have you give us your stump speech?
Yeah, the one last thing that just came up recently is the Title IX.
Title IX, yeah.
And so, essentially what it's doing is Biden wants to re-identify gender so that, our trans community can access Title IX benefits. That's kind of what I've gathered from it. And so what that really, for me, we need to protect. Our female athletes have worked so hard to get what they are. And so now to say a mediocre male athlete can now identify as a female athlete, and what all that means. They can take scholarships, they can take, all 9 yards. And so it's really, as hard as they've worked to get to where they are, that's all going to be taken away if that actually goes through. So DeSantis has, put the lawsuit out there, so that stopped the implementation of any changes. Our school board did vote 4-1 to approve it, and the one vote to not move forward and take a stand and protect our female athletes was from my opponent. So
it's interesting because your opponent's background has some background not only as a principal but also as a in FHSAA, the Florida High School Athletic Association.
Yeah, she's fought just as hard for these female athletes.
So you've seen the difference. I've coached girls lacrosse, played sports. It just, again, is it not common sense, or am I just?
There's no way a female.
Lost my mind here.
Even in my shape, I could probably perform pretty well on some different female athletics. It is what it is. It's common sense. It's there. That's just what it is. So there's no way, in my opinion, that I will be ever okay with my daughter stepping on an athletic event and facing a biological male. It's baffling to me, and I don't understand that. But So that's something that I think people need to be aware of, because that's a big topic, and it shows the mentality of the decisions that are being made on the board. And whether you agree with it or not, I mean, that's what you really have to look at is that appropriate for our school systems, and that when you're going to the voting box, that's what you really want to you want to highlight a lot of those things.
Great. Well, tell our folks, why do we need to vote for Rob MacCallum?
So I am a conservative guy. I have kids in the school system. I have common sense approach to issues. But more importantly, I'm willing to and able to work with anyone that wants to have a voice and put something out there. So it doesn't matter if they're the liberal of the liberal or the conservative of the conservative. I will be there and I'll listen to them, and I'll see if there's some common ground where we can actually get to a negotiated version of whatever that is that would work for everyone in our school system. So, that's, I think, the biggest attribute just from what I do in business, what I do in life. My main job is to negotiate, whether it's with people, whether it's with events, whatever it is. So I can work with anyone. I'll listen to anyone, and I have no emotional pride that would prevent me from sitting down and having a conversation with either side. I think that's my biggest attribute. One of my biggest attributes for this campaign is we haven't had that. So I will actually be able to bring some sort of civility back to our board and our school system.
That's great. That's it needs to take place. It needs to happen. And so you're telling our folks you're the guy.
I'm the guy. So that's something that, it's we just have to get it done.
Sounds great. Well, thanks for being with us.
Appreciate it.
Bless you.
Thank you for having me.
Continue to press on, and blessings on you and your family. I know this is tough stuff. It's not always easy, but to be that voice that we need for this time, it's great that you are running and you put yourself out there. Your wife is so supportive of you as well. She's just great. I got to meet her a few times, and she seems so awesome.
Colleen's great.
You can't do it. We can't do it without strong support with our wives and
Exactly.
family. So God bless you, man. And,
I appreciate it.
Keep on keeping on. And don't forget, folks, August 20th is primary day for voting. And don't forget that 2 seats are up for school board District 3 and District 5. And you may not live in that district, but we all vote. And the resident of the county votes for both District 3 and District 5 on this election as well.
And can I just add one thing?
Sure.
So even if you're a nonpartisan and you haven't, because we have closed elections here, you can still vote for the nonpartisan races. So if you don't want to change your affiliation for whatever, you can still go and vote for just those nonpartisan position, which school board is a nonpartisan race as of right now.
Nonpartisan, right. So it's District 3 and District 5. So do your homework, do your research, get the information. How can folks get a hold of you? What's the website for that?
It's MacCallum for Schools. So MacCallum FOR schools .com. And it's that at gmail.com if you want to email me.
Yeah, so email. So MacCallum for Schools. .com or MacCallumforschools@gmail.com. Great. Thanks, Rob, for being here.
Appreciate
God bless you guys. Get involved. Stay plugged in. Do not give up. This is the most important election of our lifetime. So God bless you guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks.